Hello and welcome back to the Lost Sheep Podcast. I'm Evan Aber here with
Cole Bissett
and Nazario Pangallo.
So welcome back, episode number 45. We are super hyped to be here today. As y'all can see, a few new additions to our podcasting setup. So if anyone saw the reel we posted on Saturday,
Yeah,
right?
Saturday.
On Saturday,
Yeah.
Did some shopping, had the opportunity to get a few pieces of equipment to improve the quality and hopefully really get some stuff going here. But Cole, I know you were super excited about our most notable purchase that is hanging in front of our faces. So
Yeah, well, we went to the store on Saturday, and it was a guitar store, so I did not spend much time looking at the microphones. Evan and Nazario kind of did the busy work.
teched out.
They did.
Nice.
They did the tech work, and I kind of just played whatever instrument was available at my disposal, which was so worth my time. But anyways, they came back with this magnificent piece of equipment, and so now we are graced with the ability to provide clear audio to you guys that will not get corrupted, because we have had too many episodes. I said but we have had too many episodes where we have had to go back and apologize to you guys because it sounds like we're in an echoey cave and we sound like robots. So we are making a change and we are going to fix that, and we hope you guys enjoy it from here on out. We're excited. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think this was one of the most productive weekends of the Lost Sheep Podcast that there has been. We had obviously our shopping experience, but I think we just had really good talks about the podcast, where we want to go with things, and you guys will see going forward, hopefully, more initiative to post on Reels, because we've done a better delineation of Cole being our social media manager. Evan is our do-it-all guy, doing a mix of whatever's needed to be, and then me being the full-on computer editor. So having those roles is really helping us out. So that's going to be great going forward. We hope to grow ourselves on obviously Spotify, Apple Podcast, all of those things. Also YouTube, but then really trying to go into the shorts as well with Instagram and TikTok, which we are back on. So if you're a TikTok follower, go to TikTok and follow us. The Lost Sheep Podcast, that's our name on TikTok as well. But follow us everywhere, wherever you are. We have YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcast. If you're a listener, if you're a watcher, wherever you are, you can follow us. And if you are a merch person as well, you can get our merch. We have T-shirts. I ordered my T-shirt.
They did.
Come
they
on.
finally ordered
Come
their
on.
T-shirts.
We ordered our T-shirt. I got.
Wait. He didn't order his T-shirt, did he?
I got ice gray. Is the color that I got. Cole.
Ice gray.
I did white.
Yes.
Just
Cole
straight
has
white.
white.
You got white?
So
Yeah, I think I'm going to get like there was like a sand or a slate maybe.
Ooh,
Yes.
that's a pretty
So
color.
there's
It looks really
multiple
good.
colors if you guys
Because I
want to get a
definitely ordered it
T-shirt.
already.
Yeah, and then we got wristbands as well. So very excited for what's going forward. But guys, are we ready to get into our quote, which comes from Evan? Oh, Cole has a...
Real quick, I was going to say, just stay updated on Instagram. There's going to be some future things to come. We have talked about some plans. I don't know if you were there. You were in the car for the plans of just the future with some of their things. It may include merch. So just stay updated.
Giveaways is what Cole is referring to.
Yes, which
So
was
get
going to be a
excited.
surprise,
Keep your
but
eyes
that's
open.
okay.
And also, I mean, big thing like returning to guests.
Yes, we are. We have some plans for some guests in the future. We're excited to have them on. We're going to get back to that. And one more thing, one of our conversations we had as a podcast over the weekend is we wanted to kind of try to give you guys a good, let's intro what we are, what the Lost Sheep Podcast is, what is our purpose, and why are we different. And so I'm going to read Nazario's text message to us.
I did not know this was happening on the show today.
But it's good though, right? It's kinda,
I think it is.
I think, and Nazario said this the most, and we probably after you read this, let's get going. But it was a really good, productive weekend for the podcast as a whole. It kind of felt like a offsite business focus on what we need to be doing and where we're at. So
So I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to clip it out at a specific part, and I'm going to post this part on Instagram. I'm going to say we're the Lost Sheep Podcast, and this is what we do. So if you are here for this, congratulations. You get to be part of the editing process. So we are the Lost Sheep Podcast. For what makes us special and why people should listen to us is because of the fact that our title states we are the Lost Sheep Podcast, and that is exactly what we are in this world. So I think keying in on that, we're lost in the world, and getting back to the comfort of the shepherd and the practicals of doing that is a decent place to start. And the fact that we're in college at Alabama and what it is like being young in the world but still not being of the world. So our audience and what our general purpose is not young people in particular. It's just people who feel lost in the world. We're trying to help you find your way back. And we're trying to, in a sense, we're trying to find our own way to God, right? Not our own way, but the way to God.
And we technically are all lost, so we're all on
Yep.
this journey of getting back to the Good Shepherd.
So that's our purpose. That's our intent with this podcast. So hop right in. Let's get this quote.
Evan, you want to
Yeah,
intro?
absolutely.
This is your...
So,
Evan was really passionate
Yeah.
about this last Friday when we recorded to go into this topic. Cole, you were not there for this. So.
I was not, yeah.
so if you listened that far in the episode, a little callback to
I did.
to the episode. If you listen that far, yeah, Nazario and I cued in on natural desire. So this week is a quote from Richard Rohr, who is a very popular writer and theologian. But the quote is, "The good, the true, and the beautiful are always their own best argument for themselves, by themselves, and in themselves." The good, the true, and the beautiful are always their best argument for themselves, by themselves, and in themselves. I'm gonna pick on you. So Cole, actually, we were talking about this episode right before we started, and Cole goes, "You two are super passionate about this, and I'm not quite sure what I think yet." So Cole, what are your first? What are your first thoughts
There's
on
no
this
way he's
quote?
throwing this at me right now. Wow, okay.
And cueing in on natural desire, which when I get to it, I'll kind of interface into what that actually is.
Okay. This is going to be something.
If you,
All
need
right.
to, if you need to phone a friend,
Stunned.
you can phone a friend.
Well, my purpose and my intent with this is I have read what y'all want to take this, and I wanted to kind of hear what that was and then go off of it. But I can talk for a second.
Do you want to throw it over to Nazario?
Yeah, I'll throw it over you. You
Alright.
start, and I'll
Okay.
flow. I get what the intent and purpose is here, but I don't think I think you guys, since y'all were wanting to go that way, should go
Yeah.
with it. So go for it.
So when I look at the good, the true, and the beautiful are always their own best argument for themselves, by themselves, and in themselves, I think about just, wow, the incredibleness of the life we have here on earth. There is, of course, a lot of bad things, and there are a lot of things that can scare us. I remember last night we were having a conversation that got a little bit dark about the things that happen in the world. Try not to say that. And, sorry guys.
We're
Last
working
night,
on our
we-
ums.
We
Yeah.
were working on it. Last night, we just had this conversation and just really going into some deep stuff about, wow, the world is not great. And that can really get you down. I went to bed last night texting Cole, and I said, I got to stop talking about this, or it's going to go down a bad rabbit hole of just seeing and looking at all the bad things that happen in the world. And then you wake up in the morning, you see the beautiful 75-degree weather that we have here in Alabama.
Which was 44 degrees in the morning.
I was so confused.
Yep. It doesn't
Yeah,
make any sense.
terrible.
Yep.
Anyways, the beautiful 75-degree weather, the sunshine, the birds singing, the trees, and you just remember, wow, life really is amazing. The good, the true, and the beautiful is a real thing. It is the reality because this is God's creation. Earth is God's creation. And he said, after each day when he had created it, what did he say, Cole?
That it was good.
That it was good. And we talked a little bit about
Yes, we
that
did.
last night as well, before it got deeper and a little bit more complex. So yes, the world is good. It is true and it is beautiful. And to remember that is a beautiful thing. And yeah, I think that's the starting point for where I want to go with this conversation is that the world truly is good and true and beautiful. And if you've ever heard the song by Luke Bryan, I believe most people are good.
Love that
You really
song.
get a sense of what this quote is going for. Wow, I did not know that I was going to go to that song today,
Yeah,
but it is really perfect.
I will say, things not on my bingo card. A Luke Bryan song out the gate. Yeah, I really love this quote. Richard Rohr has been one of those people that like has just kind of pervaded my life one way or another. My dad and my grandfather have read his books and stuff like that and gone on retreats and whatnot that were Richard Rohr inspired. But I think where I want to start with this one is just, looking at what the good, the true, and the beautiful are, right? Like, I think you did a great job, Nazario, of saying, like, God created everything and said, this is good, right? Day 1, day 2, all the way through day 7 said, like, this is good. This is good stuff. And then when you break down the true and the beautiful, right, you have to think about that from a spiritual standpoint of what is true to me, what is true to Christ, and what is true to the world. And so, I think you start to choose the things that are good for you, that are true to you and true to Christ, because the things that are oftentimes true to the world fall through as not true to Christ. And the beautiful, right? What is naturally non-perverted by the world to be beautiful? So this is where I'm going to cue in on natural desire, because it's the easiest one. But this natural desire, right, this idea that we've been talking about so much, is basically the theory that as humans we have all these desires, right? For food, for water, for companionship, for sexual relation, for all this stuff, right? Happiness, joy, fulfillment. All these different things. We have these desires, and they're good desires. They're given to us by God. And they're natural desires. And so that's that base theory. However, what's happened in the world is that, and this is why I go into it with the beautiful, what's happened to this natural desire is that the world has skewed it into, you have this natural desire for X. And so I'm going to twist it and warp it, and it's going to become this natural, or using this natural desire for something else that's not good for you. And so I think this quote kind of boils down to that, like ascertaining what is the good, what is the godly good, what is the godly true, and what is the godly beautiful.
And so to bring it a little bit more practical, back to the practical realm, we live in a world that tries to make the world seem like it is bad. You watch the news every night. Is there a good story in there? Is there a beautiful story in a newscast? Every once in a while.
That's not the big
It's
article.
never-
They
It
always
is-
chip in like a story about puppies or something.
Yeah.
Like, they'll be like,
Everybody loves dogs.
Yeah, here's all this terrible stuff, right, that y'all were talking about. Here's all this terrible stuff. And at the end, it's like, okay, also, but like this person adopted 3 puppies. And I'm like, okay, I just listened to an hour of like, we're murdering each other and stealing and all this other shenanigans. But then you're like, okay, this is going to get mitigated by the fact that there's a dog, so.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, the world with the newscast, especially with social media, and you just see a ton of negativity towards humanity. Whether it's things we do, how we interact with each other, you see a lot of negativity, and the world can be painted so negative. And if you go down that road, it's going to bring you to a really bad spot, and you're not going to be able to listen to the Luke Bryan song and hear what he's trying to say. Sorry to reference it again,
Yeah.
but it's going to come up in this podcast.
It really is
Cole.
a
Just
good
be
song,
ready.
yeah.
So-
bad time. I haven't heard it.
So basically,
What's it called?
Most people are good.
Most People Are Good
Believe
by Luke
most people
Bryan.
are good and
I
most
believe
mamas-
most
You've
people
definitely
are
heard this.
good.
There's no way.
By the way,
Most mamas should qualify for sainthood.
Yeah.
wait, what's it called? Most people are good.
Most People Are Good
Most
by Luke
people.
Bryan. You probably shouldn't play it on the podcast. It could
Because
get
copyright
copyrighted.
issues.
But you should listen to it.
I'm just gonna
Did
look
you
at
know
the
our
lyrics.
podcast actually did get copyrighted that episode?
If you
was
guys
it?
remember back in the day when we played a song on the podcast, what was that episode, like 5 maybe?
Yeah.
And yes, that did get copyrighted. It didn't matter. To go back to where we were,
What'd y'all play?
we played Love God, Love People
Yeah, Love
by,
God, Love
is it Danny
People.
Goki?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
we played that song on the podcast. To go back to where I was, the whole point, the whole essence of Luke Bryan's song and this quote is to be able to see the good in humanity. And like with what Evan said about a newscast, you can bring in someone adopting 3 puppies into a newscast that has a ton of bad coverage. But what does that puppy story do? It gives you a light. It gives you this vision. Oh my gosh, there is still good in humanity happening. And whether all this other stuff is happening, still you'll see someone make a great act. I remember on K-Love, you'll see many times them bring up a story during the middle of K-Love.
You've never heard of Caleb?
The Christian
radio?
radio station.
Yeah.
No, but okay, this is new to me. This is how Cole didn't know about, or you didn't know about EWTN.
Yeah.
True.
It's
K-Love,
just it's just as big
yeah,
as
it's
EWTN.
the Christian radio music.
Yeah.
But during it, they'll have, I forget what they call it, but basically a great story of the week, and it'll be something like, someone saved an animal or someone did something for somebody else, and you realize, wow, the world really is true, good, and beautiful, and human beings really are true, good, and beautiful at their core. And Evan, I think I want to toss this over to you about how we are intrinsically good with our natural desires.
Argentina just qualified for the World Cup. By the way.
That's a W.
Yeah. So going back to this natural desires kind of thing, like are good, right? I think where it cues in is right order. A lot of this stuff cues in with right order, which again, the theory that all of these natural desires are correct for us in the right amount and at the right time and place. So the easy one, and the one that we've talked about a lot, and the one that we can cue in on because it's pretty stark, I think, pretty right, wrong, right? Is sexual relations, right? And we can talk about like right order being in marriage, through the sacrament of marriage, and with the loving knowledge of procreation and the creation of new life. And so when you talk about these natural desires, okay, here's my natural desire for sexual relation, for companionship, for love with another person. And so that's my natural desire. And in right order, a very good thing, and one of the highest loves that's noticed, that's in the church. And so when you take that and you twist it, you get this perversion of the right order. You get this perversion of natural desire. I gotta sneeze.
Bless you.
When you get this perversion of natural desire, that's when the world starts to come in, right? You see divorce, you see single mothers, you see sex outside of marriage, you see contraception and abortion and things like this that are a twisting and a perversion of that natural desire for procreation, for sexual relation, for companionship, without the intended purpose, without the true purpose. Funny enough, I was actually talking about this with my sister last night. I called her on the phone, and we're both in stages of our life that are kind of similar. She's a few years older than me, but she's graduated. She's has a job, but her and her boyfriend are pretty serious and whatever. And so we were just having a conversation, and she was like, we were discussing like people who have weddings that aren't Catholic weddings, like like going to like a wedding, and it's like they have like a civil union, and then you just have like a reception and stuff like that. And we were talking about how like it kind of feels silly because the realness of it, like the truth of what it actually is not there, right? Like the truth of it, of the sacrament of the marriage, is not there to be celebrated. And so it kind of feels like empty. Like, you can still be happy for these people, you can still wish them on their best, but it feels a little less meaningful and a little less true than when I go to a Catholic wedding and I see the sacrament and I see the love, and I know that it's with the full intent of, like, this is what my vocation is. So, yeah, and I think also going into the second part of the quote, they stand for themselves, right? This quote, the good, the true, and the beautiful are always their own best argument for themselves. And again, going back, we talk about natural desire, perversion of those natural desires, right? Like the good is the best argument for itself because good is good. So we're just having a conversation right before the podcast about like all this stuff, neutrality, good, bad, like, we're reading, us three and another buddy are reading Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, which has started out really cool. I've liked it a lot. But the intro to it is basically he's aligning the theory that there is a moral law, some moral code. And so, if you believe in this intrinsic good, then it has to be good, and those things have to be good. And so, it fights for itself, which is what Richard Rohr is saying, right? If it's good, then it's fighting to be good. It can't be bad. And so it stands for itself. Cole has been, if you're listening on Spotify or any audio without the camera, Nazario and I have just been staring into each other's eyes longingly because Cole has been
Rather
concocting something over here on his phone. He's been typing furiously for the last
I'm gonna take a wild guess. It's probably a definition.
2.5 minutes.
Here.
I'm gonna go with it's a definition. Yeah.
Is it one? Is it one definition? A singular
good.
one?
He's got like 7 tabs
Let's see.
open.
What do you got, pal?
I did look over and he was on Instagram Reels for a second. So
It
I was
wasn't Reels.
a
It was
little
not Reels. It
confused.
was YouTube, actually. It
Oh,
was
okay.
a Father Mike video. I was pretty good transcript.
All right.
Yeah. So I love the way y'all are taking it with natural desire and everything. And I know I literally talked about before that we need to outline like some of the important parts on what we're going to talk about. And so I feel like it would be criminal kind of not to take it this direction at some point.
So he does shenaniganize this because he does text us right before the what was this, like 8 a.m. this morning?
Yeah.
And he's like, we should have a clearly defined outline for this
Yeah.
episode. And I can bet you $10. You'll take the action on that. Oh, you gave up betting for Lent. I'll bet you $10 to yourself, Cole, that you were about to derail us completely for the next 10 minutes.
I don't think I'll derail us that far from, we're talking about the same thing. So I actually think this quote is best taken as a whole rather than individual pieces, right? With the good, the true, and the beautiful, I'm going to read it again. The good, the true, and the beautiful are always their own best argument for themselves, by themselves, and in themselves. I think what's often underappreciated about this quote is the fact that each of these, you can take it as one singular entity, right? Like if something is true, then it's both beautiful and good. And it's the same sort of thing, right? Is if we understand what the definition of each truly is. And so I'm not about to define each of those three, actually. I'm going to define the prepositions before each of themselves. So for.
Oh, I was about to do the same thing. That's what I wanted to get into after this. So this is
perfect. So bounce off it. I'm going to define it and you go for it. Yeah. So again, not derailing us. I'm just leading us down the path that we're going.
The funniest thing with this is I'm taking a couple ecology classes. And the between and the among are the most annoying things because like between is like comparing one to the other and among is like comparison of like the whole group. So the vernacular here, I'm just loving this. I'm a big fan.
And so like y'all did a great job going into goodness, truth, and beauty. And we're going to dive into each of those in future podcasts as we highlight each of those individual topics. But like I said, I want to look at this as a whole. Like how are these three like working together? And so the three prepositions, the first one is for. Used as a function word to indicate purpose or an intended goal. That's the first one. The next one is by, identifying the agent performing the action. And then the next one is expressing the situation of something that is or appears to be enclosed or surrounded by something else. And since you were going to take this, do you want to go with that?
Yeah, I'm going to break down what I think they mean, which is dangerous.
So against the dictionary, I like it. Go for it. We've done this before.
In the sense of the definition. So first, right, good, true, and beautiful are always their own best. Argument for themselves. So they argue for themselves, like I talked about earlier, right? Good for good, true for true, beautiful for beautiful, right? Those things intrinsically we are attracted to. We're attracted to good. We're attracted to true. We're attracted to beautiful.
Which also, in a sense, they present the best argument for each other too. Which is why the three of them are combined.
Well, so that's in themselves. So
there you go.
For themselves, individual. Good for good, true for true, beautiful for beautiful. By themselves, right? Break them apart. Good, like they're always their own best. Good is fantastic. True, also fantastic. Beautiful, I love beauty. Like those are really cool things, right? By themselves, they're also really great things. They don't have to argue. They're just great things. And in themselves, this is where you cut back to what you're talking about. Like good, if something's good, it's probably true and beautiful. If something's true, it's probably good and beautiful. If something is beautiful, it's probably good and true, right? So not only are they their own best argument for themselves, good for good, but they're also good by themselves, singular good, and they're also good as a whole composite in themselves. Good is true and beautiful.
Yeah.
Which,
I love it.
I mean, I think is close to what we talked about in the definitions of what.
Yeah, I think
those
we're getting to the purpose of natural desire, and in a sense, where like our natural desire is these three things. And so, like you guys said, and what we talked about last night, and what we talked about in discipleship, this is a very common topic recently. Apparently, we've had like 3 conversations about this in the last 24 hours. Like humans were created by God for goodness, right? And so the world manipulates that goodness, and it's distorted. And exactly like you brought up the creation story, you brought up goodness. Like y'all, like we're beating the same bush. Like it's the exact same thing over and over and over again. We're just getting around to it, if that makes sense. So
there was one other thing we talked about. Do you remember what it was?
Me and you.
Yeah, about sin.
When did we talk about this?
Okay, so
Sorry.
the cool thing. No, it's good. It's good. I get to talk more. I love hearing my own voice. The good thing about Satan is that he cannot create anything.
there we go. I was gonna say,
Yes, of course.
whoa.
Clickbait. We're just gonna.
The good thing about Satan.
We're just gonna
Dot.
clip
Okay,
that and put it
cool,
on the
right
reel.
here.
The good thing
I've-
about Satan.
Hey, guys, if you're watching this full, this is like if you listen to the Josh Pate podcast, he'll go, this is what you get if you're live. So clip it like this, Cole. You're going to have Evan say, and this is the good thing about Satan, black screen for like 3 seconds, and then show the other part of him giving the proper reasoning. That is clickbait.
Is that going to be the reel, or is that going to be the intro to the podcast?
I
we
would
can't
err
clickbait
on
the-
the side of doing a reel, not the podcast
imagine?
intro.
All right. So the good thing about Satan is that he can't create anything. So everything Satan has, and I'm air quoting for my audio people, everything Satan has created, there are the air quotes, everything he has created is a twisting, a distortion of something that was already created by God, right? So again, take anything. Any sin you can possibly think of is a twisting of what God has already given us. And so as Christians, as humans, really, this should give us great hope because Satan's real and hell is real and demons are real and these bad things for you are real. And so having that little bit of like helper in addition to being saved by the death of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is the fact that like he can't create anything new. Like everything he is going to throw at us, we've already seen before because it's been created by God. And it's just a twisting, a perversion of what has already been laid in place. I always draw this back to like, if I like booby traps, like if I get a house, like a Home Alone style situation, like I get a house, and all that stuff was already in that house. And
This is actually a great analogy now that I'm thinking about it.
and Kevin perverted all those things, right? And now that house becomes a booby trap, right? And so Kevin comes home, the creator, right? Let's akin this to Jesus Christ, right? Kevin comes home, aka Jesus Christ, comes to earth, knows all the tactics of the devil because he's created them, because he's God, knows the traps that he's going to lay for him, and so thusly is able to avoid them. Now, God, still man, Jesus Christ, still man, still feels that temptation, but he knows exactly the traps that he's going to lay because he's created everything that the devil has to use. But for someone who doesn't, right, you take Bert and Ernie, I don't know their actual names, but that's always what I call them, the robbers in Home Alone, right? They don't know what the devil has created. They know what's in the house because
It's one of them is Mart.
Marty.
I think it's just Mart. Like Mart.
Yeah. So the short fella has gone and has surveyed the house. So he knows what's in the house, but he doesn't know about the perversion, right? He doesn't know about the ornaments under the window. He doesn't know about the iron. He doesn't know about the nail on the stairs, right? So like
The nail on the stairs.
that
Oh,
gets
it
me
feels
every time,
Makes
dude.
me feel
Ugh.
disgusting.
Yeah. But like that's kind of that perversion of none of that stuff was created or placed by Kevin, but it was all perverted by him. And Kevin McAllister, if you ever listen to our podcast, I am deeply sorry for comparing you to Satan. But it seemed like a good metaphor.
I mean, you did earlier compare him to Jesus, so
Yeah, so double
whammy.
double whammy, double standard there. So, but yeah. Yeah.
And please do not like overreact to when we make comparisons from human beings to Jesus or to Satan as he did. We are just trying to paint a human picture so that we humans can see how God works and better understand him through the human lens. And that's how we come to know Jesus. So just helping you out a little bit with there. And to go even more into how do we seek the good, the true, and the beautiful within our lives? How do we do this? Cole, how do we do this? How do we seek the good, the true, and the beautiful? Evan, how do we seek the good, the true, and the beautiful? And for my in-depth analysis right here, one of the things that jumps to my mind is moderation. Moderation in all things. The good, the true, and the beautiful. An extreme amount of something, too less of something, is a perversion, is it not?
Yeah.
So moderation in everything. We talk about that a lot. Nicole and I talk about moderation in everything a lot. So I'm going to give some examples here. Watching television. Cole and I absolutely love going home at night and just watching a good old episode of How I Met Your Mother.
You're like an old married couple.
Yes, we are.
My parents I remember when I was like in middle school and high school, like I would go into that room on Sunday nights and they'd be watching How I Met Your Mother.
Yes.
So like
Cole and I,
who's better you cuddled up in?
We went to brunch the next day too, and
That's
then now we're gonna go to a Broadway show. So
This
it's
is
like
insane.
with a steak dinner. It's gonna
Yeah.
be lovely.
Oh my gosh.
back to
All
the
right, back to the story.
conversation.
But I am gonna have to hear about what Broadway and where steak dinner.
So
in
television,
on
watching
that one.
television. Cole and I love going home at night and watching a nice episode of How I Met Your Mother. We are in season 2. I think the most amount of episodes we've watched in a night is 2, maybe 3. These are 20-minute episodes, so pretty short. If we watch 3 episodes, it's an hour. That's a solid amount of time. I would say my March Madness watching this past weekend, pretty extreme. That was pretty solid from like 11
6.5 hours a
a.m.
day.
till
No,
That is
11
very
p.m.
generous.
That's
sir.
generous. It was
yeah, I was gonna say.
12 hours.
There was one day, I think it was the Michigan State game. It ended at like 11:43.
Yes.
So they were saying like over 12 hours of March Madness
Yes.
occurred that day.
Now, this was like a rare circumstance. March Madness, very special, only happens once a year. But still, the extreme amount is what we're talking about here. The moderation of television. Going to watch an episode or 2 at night. Watching a movie at night. An hour and a half. They tell you when you go to the doctor when you're young. No more than 2 hours of screen time a day.
Do they really?
They do. They do tell you that.
Wow.
And if you think about
I'm cooked.
one thing that Evan and I talked about, I believe on Saturday, in regards to this quote or to natural desire, was like working out. We know one of Evan's best friends, Alex Cruchot. Is he a power lifter? Is he
Bodybuilder.
bodybuilder?
Shout out,
So you have certain people, they go to the gym a ton, right? They really focus on their body. And the body, of course, is our temple. We are supposed to uphold it. We're supposed to respect it. But there are instances where people go to the extreme. And I'm not saying Alex goes to the extreme because, well, bodybuilding is how you called it?
Yeah.
All right. Bodybuilding is a great thing, but people can go to the extreme where they're making themselves eat so much food. Or you think about jockeys. They force themselves not to eat so that they can ride on their horse. Whether that's good or bad, I'm not exactly sure, just providing an example. So we have these instances of the extremes of both sides. And so this is where moderation comes in. You should probably eat 3 meals a day. You should probably not have more than 2 hours of screen time a day. That whether we actually follow that one is
I'm not gonna lie.
little
If
bit
I
debatable.
did only my homework every day, I would have
I
3
think
hours of screen time.
I think that having homework on computer has probably
ruined us.
skewed what that
definitely,
number should be nowadays.
Definitely.
But the point of it is, if you're trying to seek the good and the true and the beautiful, you cannot just indulge in things over and over and over again and expect it to stay good and true and beautiful. Why are you smirking over there?
Absolutely.
No reason. Continue.
Okay.
He's just smirking.
Cole is just smirking, and I'm not
But
sure
I
if
do
he's
have
throwing.
the next portion
Oh,
of this. But
Oh man, I was thinking about something very vividly, but I don't even remember what it is. Oh, no, I don't.
Okay, Evan just talks for a couple of seconds.
Well, and I
say
think whatever
nothing.
you're going to say is going to fall under the category that I'm talking about. And yours does too. Right? I think the 3 of these are encompassed by how do you achieve the 3 of these? That was your question, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's
How do you seek the good, the true, and the beautiful?
Okay. Yeah. How do you seek? And so I would say you seek these things by trying to achieve this, and I think that's purity of the soul. I think it all is encompassed of that, which it falls under mediation. Is it mediation? Is that
Moderation.
moderation?
Is what I said,
Same
but
thing. Wait, no, it's not.
Very different things.
Yeah, very different thing. Moderation.
Moderation.
Right word. Better word. The word. Anyways, yeah. Sorry.
It's the word that means what you're trying to
Yeah,
say.
yeah. Right word. I said Okay. Anyways, coming back to what I was talking about, purity of the soul. Each of these things are encompassed like by purity, and so how do we it's a loophole. How do we achieve purity now?
You should define purity right now. I can't believe you didn't do that. That is shocking that you did not define
quality of
purity.
Being pure.
The equality of being pure.
That's
Is that
a paradox.
quality?
That's like
That is a paradox.
That's like whatchamacallit. What did we just look up? Designedness was the quality of being designed, by the way. Just so we're clear.
There you go, Cole. That was
Cole gave
I
us-
just gave you 10 seconds to look that up.
Cole
by
gave,
grammar.
I have
gave
it.
a deeply philosophical response to a question in discipleship earlier, and one of the words was designedness. I'm not knocking your answer; it was a good answer.
Okay.
But one of the words was designedness, and when we looked it up, it was the quality of being designed.
So what is the definition of purity?
Purity.
I mean, there's two, and I'm going to read both. Freedom from adulteration or contamination, and other one is freedom for immorality, which I like better.
Mm.
Where's this from?
The-
The dictionary.
Yeah.
The dictionary.
It didn't have anything about like the quality of being pure.
No.
Wow, that's actually incredible.
Pat on the back
'Cause
for humanity.
I will
Everyone's
say,
there.
like, purity. Like, my first thought about purity is like something being pure. Like,
But it's
but like a pure substance. Like free from tarnish, free from like blemish, like stuff like that, right? That's what I would think of as the first definition of purity.
which
Yeah.
is what they said. Freedom from
So-
contamination.
Cole.
Oh,
Now we've defined what purity
Terrible.
is.
Yeah.
Go into your
Yeah,
tangent.
and then it goes freedom from immorality, which is what I think I'm referring to more in this sense, right? Like we talked about this distortion of goodness, right? And falling into that each time we fall into any sort of distortion of the goodness that God created for us, we contaminate our soul and we put ourselves in a non-state of grace. What is the opposite of a state of grace? It's, I guess, just being out of a state of grace.
Not a state of grace.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
not being in a state of grace. And so each time you're doing that, you're jeopardizing your soul. You're jeopardizing your eternal life with God. And so the good, the true, and the beautiful are the things that we need to strive for. And the way that we strive for that is seeking purity in our hearts and in our thoughts and in our soul. Right? All three of these things need to be striven for, which comes through things like you said, mediation, not mediation.
Moderation.
Gosh, dang it. I'm not going to get that right. All right. Moderation. I think another one, a good one, is prayer, which we're going to dive into that for our PPP in a second. And then other ones I think is just times to like work on your body in a sense as like you said, our body's a temple. Like let's treat it well. Like let's be healthy. And so there's many other ways to go about this, but these are just things that are popping in my head right now.
I have a segue to the shepherd if we want to go that
hold
route.
Hold on. I was about to say something. Hold on.
Shepherd makes sense today, actually.
Yeah. Man, my memory is terrible. I just had something. Oh, one of the most fundamentally changing moments that I've ever had in my life, and maybe this is too deep for at this point in my episode, which is what we're gonna shy away from. But one of the most fundamentally changing realizations you can have is that like everyone has a soul. Because once you realize that our jobs,
Cole, do you want to give your humility definition right now?
Yeah.
Sounds like a perfect
Yeah.
time.
All right. I'll drop it in. Yeah. I'll drop it in because this is going to fall into the whole wrongful judgment thing, which so I think humility makes a lot of sense right now. We talk about the difference between what?
wrongful judgment.
Like between other humans, judging another person
Oh,
wrongfully.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know what you were referring to. That's all.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Anyways, humility, my definition, so you can quote me if you want to. Maybe not, but you can. Is the realization of personhood. That is what humility is. And then pride is the distortion and the thoughts that you can be divine. which is the opposite of realizing your personhood. And so I think this does segue very well into what you're talking about. Like, everybody has a soul. And so who are we to judge somebody else, like, as humans? Because in a sense, that's us trying to be divine, because we as people, we practice humility by realizing our personhood, which means that we also don't have the ability to judge another person. Hate the sin, love the sinner. So yeah.
Yeah. So do you? I think this is a good time to segue into. Do you want to do PPP or do you want to do? Shepherd
I think Shepherd kind of makes sense right now, and then PPP is good for kind of getting into the quote at the end. I think kind of works.
Great model of humility, and a person who, whenever you're asked about him, I feel like anytime I read, I'm kind of teasing, but anytime I read a story about this person or hear anything about their life, like, it's always, he was such a humble, down to earth fella, just a good guy. So Cole, go ahead, intro us to this week's Shepherd of the Week.
So you just did what I did.
What?
Talk about it beforehand and then not get to the point.
That was
and
the
then
point. I'm sitting in the middle chair. That means that's what I get to do.
Yeah.
And then I toss it over to somebody else, and they have to do something. So Cole, this week's Shepherd of the Week.
This week's Shepherd of the Week, one of the most notable figures in sports history. I'd say he's up there with the greats. And if not in the argument for at least top 10 for GOAT of his sport, maybe even top 5 for GOAT of basketball. Let's talk about Kobe Bryant, guys. I like anytime, and I don't know a ton about basketball, so I'm not gonna be able to list all his stats and stuff to you guys. Like, that's just not what I can do.
Those are irrelevant.
They are irrelevant. Anyways. Like, that's not what we're doing here today. The reason I picked him is because constantly, when Kobe died, it was tragic. Like, it affected a lot of people. And I would say, obviously some famous figure dying normally, it's gonna, people who are mega fans are gonna be disappointed. But Kobe didn't just have sports fans that supported him. It wasn't just sports fans. It was people who looked up to him as a human being, and they're like, wow, this is a really good person, and he is a role model I need to follow. Mm-hmm. And even as men, I think he encompassed what men, what we're kind of striving for sometimes. A lot of time, even in his intimidation factor, it's crazy. He was one of the most lovable guys ever, but one of some of his fellow players' favorite stories about him is when they went to the Olympics. In the first play of the game, he went over and decked his teammate, and he just told him.
That's Cole's favorite story about Kobe.
Was that Pau Gasol, right?
Yes, Pau Gasol.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome because he knew it was all love, but he knew right now we're locked in and this is game time. Yeah. And so he understood when he needed to play ball and when he didn't need to play ball. And so at that moment he was locked in, he was ready, he was competing for his team. And so I think he did kind of encompass what we look for in a man. And so a lot of the times, when he died, it broke many hearts across the world.
The reason that I wanted to segue from what we were talking about into Kobe Bryant is we were talking about what do we have to do to become pure so that we can seek the good and the true, the beautiful. And number one thing that I think of is self-control, self-mastery. Mm-hmm. And no person, at least in the sports world, really just had self-control and self-mastery than Kobe Bryant. I think of this story right away. LeBron James and another famous NBA player, when they were at that Olympics that you're talking about, Cole.
Carmelo?
This is
Carmelo?
Carmelo.
Carmelo.
And this was not the dream team, the redemption team, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
yes.
Redeem team.
Redeem team.
Yeah.
And so they had just lost the gold medal 4 years before this. They're trying to get a gold medal back to the U.S., the basketball powerhouse of the entire world.
Yeah.
And so Carmelo and LeBron go out wherever they're at in this Olympics. They come back at 5 a.m. And what do they see? They see Kobe Bryant working out. They see Kobe Bryant going to work out, get his first workout in for the day. What were they doing? They were going back to bed because they had just been out partying. And so you hear many stories about Kobe Bryant and how he would get up in the morning and get a workout in 4:30 in the morning, whenever he had to do it. He has a name for his mentality that no one else will ever have, nor will anyone will remember it. Any mentality like his. The Mamba mentality. Kobe Bryant, the Mamba mentality. If you take anything from this podcast, remember the Mamba mentality because it was true self-mastery, self-control, self-determination. He had a goal from a very young age that he wanted. I believe that it was to get his mother to a better life. I could be wrong on that part, but I'm pretty sure that he wanted to get his family out of whatever situation they were in, and he knew to do it, it was going to be through playing basketball and becoming a professional. And not only did he do this when he got to the NBA, he went straight out of high school, so he had no college. Right when he was in the NBA, it wasn't he started then. He started when he was a young kid. At the age of, I believe, 12 or 13, he told a story about he forced himself to only play left-handed so that by the age of 15 or 16, kids would be just now getting their right hand really well, while Kobe would be able to go both hands.
Yeah.
I remember myself at 12, 13. I did not anywhere near have the ability to do that. I would get so frustrated with my left hand. I was like, I'm just going back to the easy right hand. I'm just going back to what makes it easy so that I can, play well then. Not Kobe. He made himself use his left hand when he's 12, 13 years old. The ridiculous amount of self-control that guy has. So our role model for this week for seeking the true, the good, and the beautiful, to become the pure souls that we are hoping to become, to have that pure heart so that we can choose the good, the true, and the beautiful, comes through self-control and self-mastery. And Kobe is our role model for that this week.
Yep, love that. Y'all got anything else to say on that? Top of it? No? I think that's a pretty good breakdown of the Mamba mentality. And I also, what you guys?
So the only thing I will say, blew my mind this week because you're talking about LeBron, but LeBron only has 3 beers a year.
How does he track that?
I don't know, but he like.
Is that a multi-year thing?
You know the famous photo of them on the steps in the Olympics from this past year or this past Olympics, right? There's like a video before, and they're like, because they're drinking beers, and LeBron is like, this is like my 3rd beer this year. And that was in like July. I just thought that was super funny.
As non-21-year-olds, me and Cole,
yes, as a 21-year-old,
get this one.
As a 21-year-old, it was just a crazy thing because like some pro athletes, you talk about these pro athletes who are so self-disciplined, so structured. It's just completely mind-blowing to like have that measure of self-discipline. And I think it might as well. My favorite Kobe story is at one point, I forget who the player was, but he transferred into the Lakers. And this wasn't when Kobe was a little bit older. But, he's like, okay, what time do I have to get there for the games, right? Because it's a pretty usual thing, right? You have to show up a couple hours beforehand. And like, 2 hours before. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to show up a little bit before then, right? And so he shows up 30 minutes before 2 hours, and there's nobody there except Kobe.
I've heard this story.
Who's been like getting PT for like 2 hours. And the guy's like, am I late? Like, you told me to show up at 2 hours. I thought it was early. And the guy's like, no, Kobe's been here all day. Like, he's already gotten, like 100 shots up. He's already gotten PT. He's already done cool down, and he's getting re-warmed up for the game. And the new player, like, I remember this interview, and he was like, I was like flabbergasted. And my first thought was like, I am not going to succeed here, because if this is what it takes to like be at that level, I don't have that. But just that amount of self-discipline, that amount of desire, to attain a goal, to achieve something is just remarkable and oft to be, replicated, or should attempt it to be replicated.
Yeah, so Kobe Bryant, our shepherd of the week for episode number 45. Cole Bissett out here bringing us the PPP and the shepherd of the week. So we shout him out real quick. Shout out Kobe. Cole, I'm going to throw it over to you for your personal prayer practice.
Yeah, we should triple crown one day. Like, we should, we should get like a special hat or something if you bring the personal prayer practice.
Someone gets to wear like
the hard hat.
That would be pretty cool.
He's gonna be wearing it for like 80 episodes.
What if we have a hat? See, live people out here. You get to see the raw version of the episode, or video. So you get to hear our ideas coming out. We have a type of hat for the quote, type of hat for the PPP, type of hat for the shepherd of the week, or a type of clothing. And so each week, each person gets to see who brought what. That would be. We
don't tell them though. They just have to figure it out.
They have to figure.
They just have to figure it out.
That is great.
Diabolical.
They have to figure out which one.
Diabolical.
What it is here.
That's not a bad idea.
So,
I like that. Well, I will say Nazario's been really productive about sending quotes recently, which was like, if for you early listeners, was like the worst thing. Like, he was terrible. I mean, I don't know if you brought anything for the first 20 episodes. And was there really anything?
We don't talk about the past.
It-
Mamba mentality. We're looking ahead.
So Nazario's been really productive
Bring that.
in now and in the future. I hope. If not, then there will not be episodes posted because he's in charge of that. So you'll know if Nazario is not doing his job now that we have defined.
No quote.
Now that we have defined our roles. So if there is any slacking, it will be made apparent, and the person that is failing at the job will also be made apparent. So yeah, other changes. I like that idea about the clothing. But anyways, that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about the PPP. So we're going back to personal prayer practice. Practical prayer practice. And I said personal vocal prayer, but I'm just going to change it to vocal prayer. I don't want to restrict it to just personal this time. The reason I brought this up is because, yesterday I just got the chance to pray the rosary, with other people, and it was just kind of nice. I was like, oh, this is really, cool. And so I was just like, man, I kind of miss vocal prayer with people, in a community. And even by myself, I think sometimes we had a PPP where we talked about contemplative prayer. And that's important, obviously. I think you need to just have time in your head with God and just talk. But I also think there's a point where you need to physically talk to God physically. And if it may be in a room by yourself, it may be walking a trail or walk. I like to do that sometimes, and I love talking to myself, both of you, very very much so. But it's the same thing with God. That's a lot of that's the way I pray a lot sometimes too. Is when I'm walking out in the woods, I'm just chatting with what it seems like air, but I'm chatting with God. And so I thought it would be a good one, just because we haven't done it before. Do y'all have any thoughts on that as a PPP?
Where two or more are gathered in my name, I am there. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
So
good
that's
scripture.
that's what I remember,
That's good scripture.
or comes to the top of my mind right when you say this about vocal prayer, and when you mentioned praying the rosary with other people. That, as I said right before, where two or more are gathered in my name, there I am. That's what Jesus said, and I remember it. I don't know why I specifically remember this from the Gospel of Matthew. I don't know if that's the only gospel that has that verse, but that's where I remember it clearly coming from. So that is what I think about first when I hear about vocal prayer.
Yeah.
You guys did that sound at the same time.
Yeah, we did.
That was kind of cool.
funny.
What the heck?
I love vocal prayer. I am a huge proponent of it just because it helps to keep me in the moment, right? I'm a super distracted guy. So it just helps to keep me down to earth and in the moment. I also like it. I pray a lot of prayer, vocal prayer with Caroline. Because I don't want to pray contemplative. It's nice to sit in adoration, right? Or to sit with each other in prayer. But also it's nice to pray vocal prayer, evening prayer, night prayer. We've recently been trying to do midday prayer, stuff like that together. It's just it's wonderful. It's good. It's true. It's beautiful, right? That's what we're actively seeking. And so I think vocal prayer gives you that ability to be in community that is so crucial to our faith. And again, contemplative prayer, great. Meditative prayer, great. Solo prayer, great. Vocal prayer, praising the Lord with your body, fantastic.
Yeah, and
Cole, sorry to butt in on you, but as the minister of spirit and truth, what is your
don't
title?
talk about that yet.
I'm
future
Music
broadcasting.
Man's cutting you off.
No,
Okay.
I'm future broadcasting next week's PPP. So
okay.
yeah, I know that could be taken for vocal prayer.
Future?
Don't. We're not highlighting singing yet.
Oh my gosh, he's already got the PPP lined up for next. You know what? Here.
Yeah, no, but I knew exactly where you're going with that. I am the director of music ministry here, so I know exactly where that's landing up.
Okay.
Future PPP reference, just be prepared. We're probably going to move into that topic next week. Sorry to cut you off. I don't
No, you're
want to be rude or anything, but I don't want to dive into that just yet.
Yeah.
One more thing. So I was going to say that. I was literally about to talk about that, but I've got one more part. I want to say, when you're in a relationship with somebody, right? You spend a lot of time with each other, and eventually you get to the point where you love the person, and you tell the other person that, right? And that's what contemplative prayer is with God. That's our chance for our personal time with God. Now, what does vocal prayer give us a chance to do? Just like in a relationship, you get to the point of marriage, and what's that the first time you're doing to everybody else? What are you doing in front of everybody else?
Professing your love.
Professing your love. You're declaring your love. And so this is what our relationship with God is looking like. We are constantly, it's I'm not saying you can get married multiple times. I'm just saying, like, with God, we are professing our love over and over. It's like mini marriages, essentially, is what's happening we're
Well,
professing our love.
Not say mini marriage, a renewing of your vows.
Renewal of our vows of Christ with Christ. And
if you lean, turn your mic.
yeah, my bad. Renewal of our vows with Christ. And that's what's happening each time we are professing our love to God. And that's what we're doing by praying vocally. So yeah, that's, I think, where I was going to go with that. I think that's everything I got to say on that.
It's better than Kevin McAllister's The Devil, so,
Yeah.
we'll let it slide.
Yeah, thanks. So, final thoughts on quote. Anything?
Yeah. Actively search in your life for the good, the true, and beautiful. For me, I always take this from a relational standpoint. Obviously, if you're looking for a relationship, look for the good, the true, the beautiful in yourself first, and then in others. But also just look for it in life. Look at the flowers. Look at being able to celebrate the sacraments. Look at, having a really good friend. Look at your parents, right? Look at the good things in the world that God has blessed you with. And don't forget your prayers of thanksgiving, because he's given those to you freely and out of abundance of his love. And so don't take them for granted, and look for them. And they're going to come. They're good things for you. They're going to come. He's going to bless you with all these things if you ask him and thank him when they come along.
Yeah, I love that. There are so many amazing things in life. Shout out to a book by my favorite author, Christopher West, called Eating the Sunrise. You guys need to read it. Everyone needs to read it. And it basically is a book on this topic about the good, the true, and the beautiful. And number one thing, I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet. I just thought about it. I was like, how have we not talked about this? The good, the true, and the beautiful. We see it in our lives, whether it's through human beings, whether it's the flowers, whether it's through the birds singing, all of it. We can see the good, the true, and the beautiful, but we don't see the ultimate beauty. We see in human beings, in the birds, in the flowers, we see something that is trying to point us towards the ultimate beauty.
Bingo.
And that ultimate beauty is God. And if you want to have your mind blown, read this book, and it will dive deeply into how nearly everything in your life that is good, true, and beautiful. I'm not going to say nearly everything in your life that is good, true, and beautiful is a gift from God of him trying to trying to direct you towards himself. That is what he is trying to do. And to remember, Evan talked about natural desire a lot. We talked about a little bit of other things, but with natural desire, your true ultimate desire is for God. Number one, above all else, we talked about it last week with the caverns of the heart. The only way the cavern of your heart can be filled is with God. Take appreciation for all the gifts that he has had, he gives you, but never forget that those things are all pointing you towards him, the ultimate true beauty. And just take heart and allow him to fill your heart. And I would say if you're trying to seek the good, true, and the beautiful, and you may be struggling with different things in life that may have become distorted, remember these things and ask God for help with it, and he will help you. Yeah.
So last little tidbit before I conclude the episode. One thing I want to touch on, especially with beauty in particular, is, we talk about the fact that it defines itself. And so, something I just want to provide as an example for this is, especially in nature, right? You don't have to be told something's beautiful to know it's beautiful. I would say beauty in of itself is the definition of beauty, right? Your mind registers what beauty is. In a person, beauty. You see beauty.
I like this with what we were talking about discipleship. I'm sorry to cut you off, but Evan was talking about with laws. We were talking about laws, and we have science to tell us how and what this may be, but we don't have the why. Science can't tell us the why, right? And it's really cool when you think about human beings' moral law. How do we know something is beautiful, as you talked about? We can't scientifically prove. We just know.
Yeah.
How in the world would we know?
Yeah.
Do you want to?
It's the natural law that's inside of us. It's our natural inclination through God for goodness.
For God.
Yep.
Yeah.
For goodness, for God, for love, all these things. And so, yeah, that's what I just wanted to highlight that. Like when I looked at the Grand Canyon on spring break, like somebody didn't have to tell me it was beautiful. I'm like, holy crap, like this is gorgeous. Like I can't even process. My brain can't process that. And it's literally just a big canyon. Like how is it gorgeous? It just is.
And not to call him out, but someone walked in the door before our podcast today. Caroline, Evan, if you don't remember.
Yeah.
Someone walked in our room, Caroline, and we didn't have to tell Evan, hey Evan, there's a beautiful girl over there. No, Evan was just like, what were you like, Evan?
I said my beautiful, and I walked over and I gave her a hug.
And he got all giddy like a little kid.
Yeah. Which, I mean, this has been a banger for me. So maybe I just need Caroline to come tell me hi before I film the podcast.
Hype it up. Yeah. But yeah, so I think we're going to conclude with that. Thank you guys so much for listening this week. Just some final reminders, some final thoughts. Like, subscribe, comment, especially comment. We really, 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 really want to hear what y'all are thinking about our stuff. We want to be able to talk to you guys. Like, this is a very interactive podcast. We want to interact with our audience, especially. And honestly, to me, that's more important than a like and a subscribe. Like, you could totally not like or subscribe and comment, and I'm more than happy. We love interacting with you guys. We love growing off of you guys and learning from you guys. So that's a big thing. Shirts are in the bio on Instagram. If you want to buy them, they're like $20, which, and I would say as far as standards of merch go, is pretty cheap.
I spent the money on it.
Yeah, if Nazario can spend money on merch,
I'm
even
cheap.
and he put up a good argument for why he didn't want to buy it earlier and so I had to talk him into this, and so for our own podcast, might I say, and so Nazario ended up buying the shirt because he's a cheapskate over there, but it's okay, we love him anyways. But yeah, that free bracelets. Keep up to date with Instagram, like I said, and like
TikTok.
Nazario. Yeah, TikTok. We have a TikTok.
Reels.
Yes.
Look, especially this week. So we've started a new reel schedule.
We
which
have
you
started a
mentioned
new reel schedule
at the beginning. So look out for more reels, better, more engaging reels. I think my ugly mug will probably be on more reels. But just look out for reels. Look out for engagement.
And repost, please. If you can add it to your story, we'd love to. Like I said, we want to reach people. It's all about interactivity. We want to be able to interact with you guys. So keep up to date with giveaways, posts, all of the above. Other than that, Evan, would you like to sign us off since you introed this episode?
Yeah, so we are the Lost Sheep Podcast. We are hoping that you, the Lost Sheep, have gained something, and we will see y'all next week for episode 46. God bless.